Namaste, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to Namaste Today in the Zodiac Weather. My name is Stepº Witecki. I am the sensei to Sirius joy. I'm here to stand in my heart and walk in the light. I am so grateful to walk by your side today. I am love casting live in 5 dimensions in the beautiful Temple of Gaia on Tuesday, December 9th, 2014. And we are trumping along through Sagittarius, but today is going to be an important turn or an important inner commitment. Today, Step 17 rules the day. This is a subtle, intuitive, yet powerful decision somewhere in the next 24 hours if you haven't already made it. That is about your philosophy of life, what I call the me-ligion. We all live by a me-ligion, and a lot of us walked out of our childhood kind of playing the me-ligion of our parents. That's like the default kind of way it works, and a lot of us break free from that. But how much have you really thought about your me-ligion and what you live by and what you live for? This is a very powerful and important time. Saturn is coming on Christmas Eve, not Santa, Saturn Claus. And in the Saturn Claus, it's going to begin to execute and manifest, I think, faster than usual, what it is that we believe. Because as a culture, as a collective conscious, it is now time to examine what our core beliefs are and return to the core principles we believe in. Now, for you, that comes down to a decision today, or, like I said, in the next 24 hours or so. And it's an intuitive decision based on the architecture of incarnation of Step 17. So you're ultimately calling it from the gut. But before you try to figure out what that gut is, let's first start by taming our brain with the phrase of the day. I am open and ready to commit to a higher sense of myself. And so it is. I am open and ready to commit to a higher sense of myself. To me, this puts our consciousness on an autopilot. It's like, hey, if I'm busy, just keep going up. You know what I mean? If any other part of me is busy, just keep going up. And you know, the things that we say to ourselves, unfortunately, a lot of times advertising slogans, think about how an advertising slogan comes up in your head when you hear a song that was purchased by or licensed for that, commercial or whatever. In the same way, I'm trying to help us train our brain here, in the sense that when things come up and we're in doubt, I am open and ready to commit to a higher sense of myself. That I know. Say it out loud and say it proud, because I said so and I felt so. Now today, the serious step of the day is Step 17. The way that architects is our love, number 1, plus our psychic sense of awareness, our listening, number 7, adds to a number 8. And what this means is we come to a decision. We come to a turning point. Now, a decision is an incision in consciousness. We cut away in the crazy 8 what we don't want, and we focus on the 0 that we are left with, the conscious we're left with. So this is, in nature, the point when you prune to some degree, but we're pruning before manifest here. This is light casting of our consciousness and our creativity in motion. So today we're going to make a decision, and this decision will be enforced by Saturn himself, Christmas Eve when Saturn comes, and begin to enforce and move forward with this. So it's interesting stuff. Now let's look at the chakras. First of all, we're working on Sagittarius, so we're working on upgrading our vision and our third eye and what we see. And keep in mind that when you have visions, even waking visions, especially ones that are not past life, so when you see something you've never seen before and it's a vision, it is, in my opinion, what is currently in manifestation. Not always something that is going to happen, and the whole point is the universe going, are you signing off on this? Are you signing off on this? So our third eye definitely opens. Now, we're trying to incorporate a decision with our 7th sense, or our Step 7, and that is our God consciousness and listening to our senses. And today, if anything, if you ask yourself, if you meditate on something, whether it's a person, place, or thing, and you get a negative feeling, then that means no. God is saying no. Something in you is saying no. So people say to me, but I feel, it's like, that's it. There's nothing else to know. You're not ready yet. Keep swimming, So it's most important that, especially on a decision day, that we are listening to the warnings. We may not get a clear signal of go that way, but we know don't go down that alley. And then Step 8, the decision itself, is actually the back of the third eye. So we envision forward, and we cut behind us and close off behind us. So this is very much a sensitive part of the brain that if you lose, you will lose all control, right? So it's interesting that the signs that control the head, right, Capricorn and Sagittarius, our knowledge, Sagittarius, and Capricorn are our decisions. So today we are closing off some sort of vision that we have been questing. So let's now take a look at Planet Zoo. What does God have cooking up there in the stars? Well, for starters, the sun is at step 17 Sagittarius, and this is going to be an interesting thing. You know, if you've been watching, Sagittarius is step 3. 3 is the principle of belief. We started talking about in the beginning of the transit about how belief structure is built by step 0, step 1, and step 2. What we protect, what we draw a circle around, what we love, and what we feel for that love. When we feel the love for it, not just love it, but feel it, we now believe. It creates a triangle of consciousness. So today we're going to make some decisions. But here's what's so wonderfully fascinating about Creator. Today we also have in 3 planets step 17. So this is how universe pushes humans to move forward, in the sense that we are making 3 decisions on 3 levels today at the same time, but the other decisions are subtle and not so much in our face. Oops, that's the wrong one. I want to start with this one. The first is the North Node in Libra is at step 17 today. The second is that Juno, an asteroid named Juno, is in Leo at step 17. All right. So with the North Node in Libra, this means that today we're also in this 24-hour period making an intuitive decision about what is fair. We're making intuitive decisions, therefore, a Libra about what we should decide. Okay, ultimately. And we are being very encouraged by the universe not to ignore this part of us. So we are basically making decisions for relationships very subtly in the background. And at step 17, this is an operations level. So this is making decisions on an operations level. And most importantly, it's probably how we relate to ourselves still. I think we still work on that early chapter. Then comes Juno. Now, you may not know about Juno. Juno's a fun asteroid. Juno is the wife of Jupiter. Juno is the wife of Jupiter. So Jupiter, if you know, is Sagittarius, right? And this is Jupiter's wife. And the two of them right now are both in Leo. So husband and wife are hanging out in Leo, I think, for King Jupiter's birthday right now. Not kidding. And Juno, the wife of Jupiter, which is very influential, is at step 17. And the cool thing about the Juno philosophy is, if you guys know Sagittarius is, men or women, they're impossible to pin down. The one wife that can get you pinned down the Sagittarius is Juno, and that's the legend of Juno. And so Juno in your natal chart represents the wife or the partnership or the type of partnership you end up with regardless, despite what you think would be good for you, right? So then Jupiter is retrograde today. So on this decision day, Jupiter has now retrograded. The universe has expanded our hearts as much as it's going to, and now we get a 6-month retrograde. One of our comments asked the question of, will we get fortune in the retrograde? Absolutely. The way I find is you get more fortune in a retrograde than you get in a direct, and everyone feels the direct energy for sure. But the fortune that comes in is fortune you laid the tracks down for in the direct. So if you didn't lay down tracks for your fortune in the direct, then you won't receive the benefit from what I've seen just with my clients. But remember, Juno is just a few steps down. The wife is next door here. So in the Leo consciousness, as we have stretched forward with Jupiter and Leo and now retrograded back, we're making a decision, an operations heart decision. That's the second. That's the third, step 17 in the trio. So it's the sun in the sun in Sagittarius, and then we have Juno, and then we have the North Node in Libra. Interesting triad. So all of this plays right into our consciousness as we move forward. This is just the architecture of why it's changing our life, and I find it fascinating. But with this grand trine, passion lights up, and a good indicator because of this trine is if you are on the right inner path, you ought to light up inside. You ought to feel the glory of God in your heart when you're making the right decisions. If you're not feeling the glory of God in your heart, then you're not making a decision for your heart. Just saying. Maybe for your ego, maybe for the smart ass, that sort of thing. Or maybe for our feelings. That banjo play is the truth. Today the moon is in high heavens of Cancer. So it's very important to know that we are emotionally sensitive, and what we're really doing today is trying to set an emotional tone, and this emotional tone is really good for 30 days until the next time Moon moves into Cancer. So we're setting an emotional tone for the month, and this can aid and abet in your decisions. So be conscious to separate your feelings from your processing of what's best for your heart, because your feelings may have a lot of stuff in that stream that really don't apply to today's decision of the philosophy we're going. And that really brings us now to today's Sensei Sunrise. I chose this image because of the fact that it's a mountain and it's sculpted. And to me, mountain's majesty, you know, the relation of Capricorn and mountains, to me, is the decisions. Capricorns are ruled by Saturn, not afraid to make decisions, not afraid to make the hard decisions. That's why they often end up in positions of power, because people don't want the repercussions of making the decision. Capricorn can stand on the edge of that mountain, stand on the edge of their decision. So our decisions actually create the shape of who we are by what we cut away. Everything else grows in an unlimited love and abundance according to the universe. So decisions actually are what shape us, and a day like today, as subtle as it is, because it's the beginning, actually will grow into a shape, will grow into one side of your mountain majesty, let's say. So that said, first I want to talk about the step 17 to review is a 1 plus a 7 equals an 8, and in the consciousness of things, we have now come about midway in our acting beliefs. So from this point, our decision puts into action conscious purpose that grows to our life purpose. This builds to our life purpose. This builds to our future vision of our lives. This builds to our collective consciousness. And once the sun gets past like 19, you'll probably see society discussing some sort of moral, some sort of philosophy, some sort of issue, like gun control, that sort of thing, might heat up. We're going to start a debate, so to speak. So our upper stratosphere consciousness is beginning to change, and a lot comes from the direction we take today. All right? So the way this adds up is we are loving and trusting and manifesting at the bottom consciousness. After we're past step 10, we are creating at that point. We add our I sense energy, our psychic awareness, and this leads to a decision. But this decision mid-level, in essence, is a commitment, right? So we are committing. And what we're committing to is a philosophy or direction somewhere in your life. Now, in your Zodiac weather coming up after the break, I'll talk about exactly for each of the 12 signs where that trifecta decision is in your consciousness. So you can kind of see the twister game that the universe has you on. But in your heart, this probably plays out somewhere in your life in the sense that the future is uncertain, and somewhere you have to commit to a direction because you can't stay here, right? And that's definitely the Sag philosophy. Can't stay here. Not fun. Jupiter has, by the way, 60 moons, so Juno, the asteroid, had a hard time taming that man, right? Sometimes we have a hard time taming our beliefs. They are that ferocious. They are that intense. But today is a day where you have to kind of put into motion the direction your heart wants. So somewhere in your life, you're probably making a decision. But when we come back, I'm going to give you in the Daily Gong some tips on that decision-making and policy and those trifecta decisions in your Zodiac weather after this, my friend.
Do you always date the boring person because it's safe? How come you always date the cheater? Are you always dating someone that tries to boss you around? Really? How come you're always dating your grandpa? Come on, you got father issues. Admit it. This is the video that answers all your questions. We call it Secrets of Birthdays, the Love and Lust Report. When it comes to the secrets of you and love and you and lust, we cover it all. All those sexy secrets are available at secretsofbirthdays.com.
And here we are back at the Soulmart.me digital shopping plaza, where I am happy to prepare and share with you some cool things to make a great gift to yourself or to someone else. For one, you can get a 15-minute step reading where I'll tell you your natural born step. what was the step when you were born, and what was your emotional step. For just $39.95, I'll get in front of you, and it is recorded. It's 15 minutes and succinct. And for another 24 hours, you can get the full 90 minutes for just $99. It's $40 off the regular price. Buy a 60, get a full free 30 in the new year, and we can get in front of each other twice. It's nice. And the Secrets of Birthdays, Love and Lust Report, which you just saw a video on, is just $19.95 and can also be given as a gift to a friend. Great little digital stocking stuffer. Be sure to join our email list. That was the last point, because I always send out specials to my VIP email list first. Very important souls to follow. And then from there, we always branch out. So please join the list so we can stay in touch together. All this and more is available at soulmart.me. And this brings us to the Daily Gong. So today's gong is an interesting perspective that I felt we need to incorporate, because in my own healings recently, I have come to discover this. In our deep consciousness, it's not just the consciousness that we are pointing towards, but as you know, as a decision, we're cutting away. It's the consciousness we're cutting away from, cutting off. So this brings to my awareness and some of my past life work I've been doing recently, where, people's like, well, what good is a past life? Well, for me, it's good to know that I had this particular story, because it makes me understand myself. It gives me some sort of story for me to go, oh, no wonder this, And for me, again, identifying these things is a good way to draw circles around it. But what's interesting is the stories always explain a lot of my deep motives that I have of myself, or what we could say as my vows to myself. So today, I'm recommending to unmake your vows. There are some vows I want to unmake, I've realized here as I'm moving in the conscious world. For instance, one vow is having to sacrifice for God. I don't believe God wants me to sacrifice. If you look at anything in the spiritual universe, it is abundant. We get abundant sun, we get abundant love. Never does God ask us to sacrifice for he, she. It is actually the churches and the organizations that want to tax us without asking. Unfair taxation without representation, tapped into our spiritual consciousness. So I unmake the vow that I have to sacrifice for spirit. And that's not how spirit works. I also unmake the vow that I have to be poor to be spiritual. I don't have to be poor to be spiritual. That's an old vow from old school, and I don't want to be engaged in that anymore. I'm also going to unmake my vow of charity. I am in my heart a very charitable person by nature. I don't need to vow to it, because I am in my heart by who I am, my natural being. So I don't want these principles to run away from me and pre-manifest not making any money in 2015. And that's what this visioning is. So make sure you unmake the vows your heart does not believe in today, as much as you make the vows that you do. That is my gong for you today. But before you go unmake your vows, let's take a look at the moods of each of your brothers and sisters today. And we're looking at the trifecta decision. I should put an echo on that sound, right? Starting with the Scorpios. Scorpios, sunny and pensive today. You're ultimately making a decision about finance, but also career, which leads to pointing into new inner faith. So it's finance, career, and inner faith is your triple decision today. The Leos, cloudy and spiritual. It's self-love for yourself there. That's the primary decision. How much do you love yourself? Then that turns into how strong, so that's a strength decision. And then this turns into an attitude with the North Node in Libra. Step 3, the Sagittarius is cloudy and private today. Because it's your birthday, the decision you make is going to define your character, which will also align your beliefs with Juno. And then this associates and points you where you belong in the world. The Aquarius is sunny and sensitive today. You're making a decision about where you belong in the world or where you don't, known as social status. This also is a decision of long-term partnerships you tend to align to, and this will turn into what you actually believe or not, but you must align the 3. Step 5, the Gemini, sunny and productive today. You're making a decision about long-term relationships. That's what LTR is. This is also a simultaneous relationship, a decision about your attitudes, probably about relationships. And this is pointing towards true love with North Node in Libra. Then, oops, we skipped ahead. No, there we are. Step 6, the Libras. Sunny and professional, you are making overall an attitude decision with the Sun in Sagittarius, but this will also be a decision about what your social buzz is, and this will directly update your character. Step 7, the Pisces, sunny and pensive today. You're making a career decision about your future. It's also a decision about lifestyle, and it points to what real trust is. Step 8, the Capricorn, sunny and sentimental. Your trifecta decision is a decision to have faith, total and visible, which will turn into a decision also to trust, which will turn into a decision and direction to go for your career. So that's good. Step 9 is the Aries, sunny, nesting, and resting today, making a decision about what your life purpose really is. This is also a decision about how much you love yourself or don't, and this will point you in a certain direction with long-term relationships. Then the Taurus is sunny and chit-chatty, making an ultimate decision about, do you trust yourself? This turns into another decision about, are you feeling secure? And this turns into a direction of lifestyle. Then finally, the Virgos, step 11s, sunny and social today, making an emo security decision. That means emotional security decision. That is also a simultaneous decision in your inner faith, and that turns to where you're going and deciding for with self-confidence. And that is the Zodiac weather in all 12 signs. Let's move on now to the Lightwalker Parade and see what we have following. For one, we're doing Venus Prime Health segments if you're watching our playlist on soulgarden.tv or on YouTube. And we're doing Doomsday Snacks. And believe it or not, coffee is not good for you. Who knew? No, but we explain why. It's not just that. If you're watching on YouTube, please be kind and do subscribe. We appreciate it. It helps us with the YouTube relationship. On Facebook, you can go straight to our Facebook at soulgarden.me. And if you join our email list, you'll get very important soul and cool things in the email. I appreciate it ahead of time. Whoops, sorry about that. But the greatest thing you can do is actually come to soulgarden.tv and tell your friends. Share us with your friends. We appreciate it. Tell them how crazy Chris is with his crazy buttons behind the camera. And this brings us to our rock and roll gospel of the day. I'm going to introduce you to a Sagittarius that may not always be in your consciousness, but should. And you'll know why. It's Frankie. Fly Me to the Moon. One of my favorite songs, obviously, of Frank Sinatra, mostly because it mentions planets in it, which sounds goofy as hell, but that's how my inner child gets excited. Like, he's talking about Jupiter and Mars. But it's really true, and I wonder if he knows those two. And he was, of course, Jupiter ruled, and Frankie, oh my God, had many relationships. Who was his Juno? Who finally tamed Frankie? I mean, really in his heart or whatnot? Always interesting question, but he was a Grand Master Sagittarius, step 21. His birthday's coming up here in a couple of days when we hit step 21. But I found a video on YouTube that follows this that is like original from the 60s, black and white, him singing. So if you want to hear something cool, keep it rolling here. It's a good vibration for today to make your intuitive decision. Thank you so much for logging in. It's a pleasure to be of soul service. I'll see you in 24 hours. Until then, remember, I love you and live, love, be.
This is just so ironic.
So